Three-time Player of the Year, two-time National Championship, two-time Tournament MVP, first woman to dunk in an organized game, gold medalist. Thank you for making time. Welcome to the show, Sheryl Miller.
With that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat.
For the past year, we've witnessed Sheryl Swoopes consistently taking shots at Caitlin Clark with strange accusations, saying she's a 25-year-old competing against teenagers, that her first season as a rookie isn't noteworthy, and that no one enjoys playing alongside her. The criticism seemed never-ending. Some of her colleagues recognize her skill on the court, but they refuse to acknowledge her impact.
Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard,
right? I used Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies.
That's when Sheryl Miller stepped up. The basketball icon and former coach of Clark delivered a knockout statement on the All the Smoke podcast, labeling Swoopes a big fool and tearing apart the false claims. Miller didn't hold back, firmly putting Swoopes in her place. But what truly caught fans' attention was how her defense of Caitlin Clark revealed an unexpected truth about the Indiana Fever's future, one that has everyone talking. Are you ready? Let's go.
Three-time Player of the Year, two-time National Championship, two-time Tournament MVP, first woman to dunk in an organized game, gold medalist. Thank you for making time. Welcome to the show, Sheryl Miller.
Before we break down everything Miller had to say, have you ever wondered why a basketball legend seems so determined to undermine one of the WNBA's most promising stars? Let's unpack the bizarre campaign Sheryl Swoopes has launched against Caitlin Clark, from her college days to her rookie season.
Let's also talk about how much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old.
It all started when Swoopes made wildly inaccurate claims about Clark's college career. Perhaps the most absurd one was her saying that Clark was a 25-year-old playing against 20-year-olds during her time at Iowa. The truth? Clark was actually 22 and competing in her fourth collegiate season, just like countless other seniors. When people called out her mistake, Swoopes backtracked, claiming it was just exaggeration due to COVID eligibility rules, an excuse that simply didn't add up.
Caitlin Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Carry on.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
I said that because when she comes to the league, regardless of what team she goes to that has vets on that team, she probably ain't gonna get 40 shots a game.
But Swoopes wasn't done yet. She went on to claim that Clark was taking 40 shots per game, trying to paint her as a selfish, high-volume shooter. The actual statistic? Clark averaged 22.7 attempts per game. What makes this accusation especially ironic is that Swoopes herself averaged 19.2 shots per game in her senior season, just 3 less than Clark. It's a classic case of throwing stones while living in a glass house. When Clark was approaching the all-time NCAA scoring record, Swoopes changed her approach. She questioned whether the record was even legitimate, claiming Clark needed an extra year to break it.
You asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
This argument was completely inaccurate. Clark broke the record within 4 years, just like other players before her. Swoopes conveniently ignored the fact that the COVID eligibility rule allowed Clark to stay for a 5th year, but she chose not to. As Clark entered the WNBA, Swoopes boldly predicted that she wouldn't dominate. But as Clark shattered rookie assist records and quickly became one of the league's top playmakers, Swoopes suddenly became silent. The numbers speak for themselves. Clark finished her first season averaging 19.2 points and a league-leading 8.4 assists per game, silencing critics and securing the Rookie of the Year award.
Didn't say she wouldn't be good. What I said was I didn't think Caitlin or Angel would come into the league and dominate immediately, which I don't think either of them did.
Respectfully, there is absolutely no way, even when we're trying to sit here and play semantics about dominating, there's no way that anyone could ever leave this season in saying that both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese didn't dominate. You would have to further explain what dominance means for you to not sit here and say that a player who is leading the league in assists while averaging 19 to 20 points didn't dominate that season.
One of the most telling moments was when Swoopes appeared on Angel Reese's podcast, where she continued downplaying Clark's achievements while insisting she had no issue with her. A classic example of saying one thing but doing the opposite.
I've known Cheryl since she was in college. I helped do her shoe deal with Nike in 1993, took her to her first SBs. I've known Cheryl, I've coached her, have a lot of respect for her. I called her when Caitlin was still playing at Iowa and she had just broken Maravich's record. And it was all over the place, as you and I have discussed, that there was this quote by Sheryl that said, Caitlin was, 25 years old. She was, 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior. Right. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate.
The basketball world noticed this pattern. Eventually, Swoopes was pulled from broadcasting a Fever game and replaced with Nancy Lieberman, who didn't hesitate to set the record straight.
I got off the treadmill and I called her as a friend. And I said, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. And, you might like Boston. I might like the Yankees. It's okay to have difference of opinions. Well, she got upset with me on the phone. And I was like, Cheryl, I'm not doing anything to hurt you. I'm just sharing. We're talking. And so our relationship, it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. Right. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good or great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life.
Nancy tried to talk to Swoopes at the Final Four, but Swoopes refused to have a conversation. At that moment, the basketball world desperately needed someone with credibility to speak up about Caitlin Clark. That's when Cheryl Miller stepped in and absolutely shut down the nonsense. When a basketball legend, who has actually coached Clark, decides she's had enough of the misinformation, you get one of the most authentic defenses women's basketball has ever seen.
Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given.
Miller wasn't just offering casual support. She was delivering a powerful, well-informed defense that only someone of her status could provide. Her now famous remark, "Come on, you big fools," said it all. The entire studio erupted. But Miller wasn't done. She defended Clark's work ethic with passion, knowing firsthand how much effort Clark puts into her craft. And then, Miller pointed out an uncomfortable truth, one that Clark's critics don't want to admit.
Look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Clark's presence has elevated the entire league, including the salaries of those who criticize her. I coached Caitlin Clark in the WNBA All-Star Game. Best coaching job ever. Hands down. Miller revealed that after spending time with Clark, she realized something.
You recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
Best coaching job ever.
Best coaching job
Best
ever.
coaching job ever.
Being around Caitlin Clark, how was the experience for her? She's such a big star. I mean, the sky's the limit for her. To be around her, just talk about the type of person she is and how much she loves the game.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and hated because of my color.
Yeah.
Her defense of Clark was not just about basketball. It was about understanding the pressures of carrying a spotlight you never asked for.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. Mm-hmm. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Mm-hmm. Confident.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. Mm-hmm. And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative wasn't the truth.
When the Fever finally won their first game of the season, Miller didn't just congratulate Clark. She gave her what almost no one else had: unconditional support.
Watching her pass, and I didn't know how talented she was and how well she sees the game in a 3D version, thinker. Mm-hmm. Defensively, a lot better than I thought and gave her credit for. So watching her and just spending a little time. And one thing, guys, that I've learned is to step back and let these kids be themselves.
Miller's final message to Clark: I'm so proud of you. Savor this. Use this as motivation. But most importantly, never stop being yourself.
She was getting hit with everything left and right, and I just said, I hugged her. I said, I'm so proud of you. I go, savor this. Use this as a formula. I said, but keep being you. I said, no matter what, keep being you.
With the bond forming between Miller and Clark, Indiana's future isn't just promising, it's championship material.
Heavy as a crown that she's wearing right now.
Right.
And it wasn't something that she self-anointed herself. It's something that's been placed on her head. And I hope people understand that. But it's everything that she's dealing with. And I gave her the biggest hug that I could. And when she saw me, she was like, oh man, finally somebody I see that's on my side.
Right, they could relate.
The one thing that I said to her, and she was heading into her senior year, was have fun. No matter all the static, just make sure you find that quiet place. You can set a screen for Kaylin. Kaylin don't need a screen. Kaylin's got great handles. The one thing that I don't think people really appreciate about that young lady's game, she can pass the ball.
She can't pass. She got great assists.
And the bounce pass is powerful, which is almost non-existent in the game. I love what they've done for the women's game from a collegiate level to now, and it's working. And it was only a matter of time. And great narratives, great storylines, but now the bottom line comes down to one thing. It's about basketball, and it's about wins.
What advice, if any, did you share in that meeting with Caitlin? Because I know that she spoke very highly of you, got great respect for you.
I've known Cheryl for a little while now. I think her energy, that's what I love about her. Like, it's just contagious, and it's fun getting to be around those two people that have done so much for the game. For me, it's super special. Like, there's still two people that I really look up to and idolize and appreciate everything that they've done, and for them to have this moment too and be a part of it, like, it's just super cool.
Holy smokes, what an opportunity. And I was excited, like really, really excited, till I found out that the team I'm coaching wants to beat the brakes off our Olympic team. I'm like, okay, the pressure's on. So now we got a game, folks. We're going to have a game, but it's been fantastic.
And people that came well before today's game, they were skilled. They were incredible. The spotlight is now enhanced, and give these women credit. They have certainly elevated the game. but there are some truly, truly great players that could play today that played yesterday.
And you know what? And I love the way that you said piggyback, because in no way, shape, or form am I not appreciative of where the game is at and the exposure, because we get exposure. Everybody forgot Lynette Woodard until Caitlin Clark broke her scoring record.
What do you think? Are you excited about the Fever's future? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.